In this video, I'm going to tell you about why you should really think twice before building your miniatures. So I've been working on a new army for, as it turns out in this situation, 40K, but this really relates to any kind of tabletop war game. But I'm working on a new army. And what I'm doing is I'm going through and I'm building the models. I'm building the regular troops, the elites, the whatever, all the different types of guys. And as I was doing it, I started thinking to myself that maybe I wasn't really doing myself any favors. As I was in the process of building them, I had these thoughts that went through my head, and they went like this. Well, this will be really nice once they're all built, because then, well, at least I'll be able to play with them before I paint them. And that's where the trouble comes in. And I'm sure that if you've hung out at any local shop and watched some games of any kind of war game, you've probably seen plenty of bare gray or bare silver, depending on whether you're talking about plastic / resin or, metal armies. You've probably seen your share of gray and silver forces. And the trick is that, we've talked plenty about painting and this and that and the other thing, but what I realized, and really, I guess I had never thought of it this way before, but if you build your models completely, you can play with them pretty easily. And when you can start already playing with the models, that's just another reason to maybe not have to paint them. Or at least not have to paint them right away. You can always put it off and say, well, I'm going to play with them for now to kind of get used to them, feel out that army, make sure that it's what I want, and then I'll paint them later on. And there are a lot of people who've been playing with a completely gray or silver army for 2 or 3 or 4 years who've been saying that same thing, telling them that same lie for a good long time. And what I kind of determined is that there's a relatively easy way to combat this issue. As I was building the Primaris Space Marine dudes who came in the Dark Imperium box, I got to the captain in Gravis armor, and he's got a cape and just a whole bunch of different stuff going on. And my thought process is that, well, I decided to build him in sub-assemblies and just build parts of him, but not build all of him. Paint him separately in the different parts. I've done a video about painting in sub-assemblies and the benefits of doing it. You can check that out up here. Pachow. But the benefit to not putting your models completely together and to work in sub-assemblies, beyond the fact that it makes it just easier to paint your models, it also makes it more difficult for you to play with them and to use them on the board. If you look at this picture, that I'm not be able to put that guy on the board anytime soon. He is a mess. He's got all kinds of parts all over the place. And so there's a real benefit to doing the sub-assembly thing, besides it makes it easier to paint and to get a better paint job because you can reach into all the nooks and crannies. It also forces you to paint the model before you can actually get the benefit of putting it on the board and playing with it. Now, there are some of you out there that are going to say, yeah, but then how am I going to know whether this is the army that I want to play with? How am I going to, test out the army? Before if I have to wait till I paint it, that could take years. It shouldn't. It really ought not. But then how am I ever going to play? Well, as it turns out, there's a thing called proxy. If you want to do some testing games at your local shop or in your local basement or wherever it is that you play, garage, whatever, you can always just be like, I want to try out a captain in Gravis armor, so this pill bottle is going to be him, or this guy from a different system is going to be him, this dude from Malifaux is going to be my captain in Gravis armor, and I'm going to try him out, use the stats. Basically, really, all these models are, if you're not really interested in the artistry and all that kind of jazz, is they're basically just placeholders for this is where this strategic asset lies. So the situation is that you just need to kind of like understand that you can really just proxy to learn. Really, if you're building the models before, if you're like, well, I'm going to build this model so that I can then put it on the board and try it out, you've already committed by building the model. Really, if you're really trying to dial in your strategy, you should probably be proxying models before you even buy them with models that you already own to see, is this a piece that I should be running in my army? Like if you're super competitive and trying to dial in your stuff, then you should definitely be like, I want to know if I should have used, this model. I'm going to use this as a proxy, run it around a couple of times, play a couple of games, and then go from there. That will teach you far more than building it, keeping it gray, running it. Now, admittedly, a lot of times when you get to the point where you actually start going to bigger tournaments, they require some painting. So you've got that kind of timeline sort of situation out there at the offset. But I still see in the stores, and the shops and the places, I still see a lot of gray armies. And, that's a choice. It certainly is a choice. But you can help yourself with that choice. You can be a little bit more in control of your own willpower. It's like if you're trying to lose weight, you're trying to be on a diet and your house is filled with snacks. That doesn't help. You know what I mean? If your house is not filled with snacks, then when you think about snacking, well, there won't be any snacks. So you're fine. This is the same situation. I don't exactly want to get painting, so I'm just going to take this model and I'm going to take it to the shop and play it gray. Well, if it's in about 8 parts, well, then you can't do that. You gotta actually get it finished so that you can then have the enjoyment of taking it to the shop and playing it, and being able to show off your paint job to your opponent, who may actually also be rocking a gray or silver army. So basically, just think about it this way. Not completely building your models has 2 benefits. There's the one that I've talked about in other videos in the past about painting and sub-assemblies, how it's easier to get a better paint job because you can get in all the nooks and crannies easier. The other big benefit to not putting the model completely together when you first get them is that you're able then to not play with it. So that sounds weird to say it that way, but what I'm saying is it's not giving you the out of like, well, he's put together, I might as well give him a try. You're in a situation where you probably don't have enough parts to actually get on a base if you're doing your sub-assembly right. So that's actually a benefit, because then it forces you to get the paint job done so that you can put the guy all together and now you can play with him. And sometimes we need those little kind of mental tricks and boosts to get us pushed in the right direction. And I think that this one's a pretty good one. It's one that I'm starting to use a lot more myself, and I hope you give it a try as well.